Hi everybody, I'm Fran Spielman and you are watching The Fran Spielman Show, brought to you by AARP. Our guest today is Toni Preckwinkle. Congratulations, you made it.
Thank you. I'm
To
very
the runoff.
grateful. I'm very grateful to all the good people of Chicago who supported me and all of our volunteers and staff.
But this is not the runoff you or Chicago expected.
It's the runoff we've got.
I know, is it more difficult? The Bill Daley matchup was a better one for you, wasn't it?
You know, this is the race we've got. I'm going to go out and visit as much of Chicago as I possibly can and talk to the voters, particularly voters who made different choices first round, and ask for their help and support.
But you need to attract the votes that went, most of all, to Willie Wilson. 13 wards that he won. How are you going to do that?
Well, I'm going to go everywhere in the city. It's what I did when I ran for county board president in 2010. I'm going to go everywhere in the city and ask people for their support. And you know what I've talked about is the real importance of working families being able to thrive in our city. We've got to have a $15 an hour minimum wage, and I have a plan to do that by 2021, an accelerated plan. I think the state gets there by 2025. I've talked about investing in communities that have been struggling, as I did when I was alderman of the 4th Ward. We've got to have more affordable housing for working families. I'm a teacher. I've talked about having strong neighborhood public schools, and we've got great public schools in some neighborhoods and under-resourced schools in others.
Have you talked to Willie, though?
I have talked to Willie, and I'm going to meet with him personally.
And what will you say to him? What will be your pitch to him? I mean, because these wards, particularly the ones he won, are tax sensitive. They're still angry over the repealed sugar beverage tax. What will you tell him and them about that?
You know, it's hard to know why certain parts of the city supported one candidate or the other, but I'm going to go everywhere in the city and ask for people's support.
Right, but
and
how
I'd
will
be
you
very
explain?
and I'd be very grateful to any of the folks who ran for their support, but I'm really going to go and talk to the voters and ask them for their support.
Right, but how do you explain the sugar beverage tax? If people are still angry about that, what will you tell them?
You know, look, I understand that people were unhappy. It was repealed, and we made the very difficult choices we had to make to balance the budget. We closed 1,000 positions. But I think it's important to remember where the money that the county receives goes. Half of it goes to health care. We run our health and hospital system, and we now have 320,000 people who get health care as a result of county care, our Medicaid expansion program.
But will you apologize and say, you know,
another 40% of our money goes to criminal justice, and we've had great luck in reducing, well, it's a result of hard work, I shouldn't say luck, with all the stakeholders in reducing the jail population by more than 40%, by giving people who are accused of nonviolent crimes an opportunity to be out in the community, going to work, going to school, supporting their families as they await the disposition of their cases. So I always try to talk to people about what the county really does, and when I share with them the work that we're doing, they kind of say, oh. And you know, as I said, we made the difficult decision after it was quite clear that this was not popular, to repeal it, and then we went on to make the difficult decision.
So do you apologize for it? I mean, will you say to these people, you know what, I blew it, I miscalculated, I'm sorry?
You know, we were looking for revenue to support the good work the county did. And that revenue choice turned out not to be popular. We repealed it, and we went on, as I said,
well, you had to be dragged into repealing it.
It was repealed, and we went on to do the difficult things we had to do to balance the budget. And for the last 8 years, we've balanced every single budget. We've made $850 million in cuts, because I always look first to make government more efficient. We've reduced our workforce and reduced our indebtedness. I think I've been a real responsible steward of county government.
Now, out of the box, on election night even, you were quite negative in terms of portraying the contrast between yourself and Lori Lightfoot.
I wouldn't say negative, I would say descriptive.
Okay, go ahead. Let's talk about the description. Why is she a phony reformer, and why are you the real one?
You know, I was elected alderman of the 4th Ward on my 3rd try, the first woman ever elected alderman of the 4th Ward, and I beat the machine to get there. When I came to the city council, I was a founder of the Progressive Caucus, one of 3. I sponsored and supported every single affordable housing and living wage ordinance that came before the body. I've always been committed to working families. I was one of 5 votes against the parking meter sale. You know, I think it's important to remember that the city council historically has been very reluctant to go against the mayor, whoever the mayor is, but I was one of 5 votes against it, and that was a terrible disaster. I mean, that asset sale was a terrible disaster. And in my community, I worked hard with community residents to improve our public schools, to revitalize neighborhoods, and to address public safety challenges.
All right, let's talk about Lori now.
Just a second. Those are all very important parts, I think, of a progressive agenda.
Okay.
Being committed to the community, being a sponsor of affordable housing and living wage ordinances, being a founder of the Progressive Caucus. And what I've done in the last 8 years as president of the county is try to make health care available to as many people as possible, and criminal justice reform. And those are very important parts of a progressive agenda, not just locally, but nationally.
All right, but people seem to have forgotten that because you are now the party chairman. Was that a mistake?
It's my job to try to share with people the experience that I've had in government, both as an alderman and as president of the county.
But was it a mistake to take over the party? Because that's the symbol of the old way.
But I take my progressive values with me wherever I go. And the first thing we did at the meeting in April, a little less than a year ago, in which I became chairman, was institute a sexual harassment policy. And then in the summer, the party, for the first time in its history, decided not to retain a judge. And that was a judge who, as an assistant state's attorney, had been involved in a case where there was perjured testimony and was subsequently recanted, who refused to acknowledge that there was anything untoward about the trial, although the two young men who spent together more than 20 years in prison, two young men from the Latinx community, spent more than 20 years in prison as a result of this wrongful conviction, got exonerated. He never acknowledged that there was anything wrong with that proceeding. And then in his courtrooms had the harshest sentences against defendants and the biggest disparities between black and brown defendants and white defendants. And the Democratic Party, for the first time in its history, under my leadership, said, we're going to hold judges accountable for their conduct on the bench. And Matthew Coughlin was not retained as a result of the work of the party and as a result of the work of the advocates.
All right, but here you
going
are.
Forward, just a second, going forward, we're going to continue to do that, to hold our judges accountable for their conduct on the bench in a way the party has never done before.
But if you weren't the party boss, it wouldn't be so easy to paint you as the old guard. Now, you got dragged into the Edberg scandal, which came sort of out of the blue. And
you know, I served with him for 19 years. He was neither a friend nor an ally. But you know, as I go around the city, what people want to talk to me about is their communities. Sometimes the challenges are gentrification. Sometimes the challenges are lack of investment. Everyone's concerned about having great public schools in their community. And in many communities, there are concerns about public safety. And those are the things people want to talk about.
Do you wish you hadn't become chairman of the party? And might you step down and try to go back to your roots?
You know, I think it's really important that those who are leaders in the party are committed to inclusion and diversity. And that's what I've been committed to my whole life as a Democratic committeeman. I supported a gangly young community organizer in 1996 against the Democratic establishment when he wanted to run for state senate, and then when he ran for Congress, and finally when he ran for president of the United States. You know, I've supported Barack Obama. I supported, when he went to the Senate, I supported Kwame Raoul, who's now our Attorney General in Illinois, to replace him in the state senate. I was a big supporter of Kim Foxx, our state's attorney, of whom I'm very proud, and who has finally acknowledged some of the terrible wrongs that have been imposed on our citizens in the criminal justice system, and moved for mass exonerations. As a result, I mean, I've supported progressive young people as a Democratic committeeman, and I will continue to support progressives as chairman of the party.
So, in your first round campaign, you had to fire your campaign manager, your chief of staff, and your security chief. There were some unforced errors. How do you tighten it up? How do you? You
know, if people are looking at my record in the county, I think they should look at the stewardship of the last 8 years. And as I said, in the last 8 years, we've had 8 balanced budgets, $850 million in cuts. We've reduced the workforce and we've reduced our indebtedness. You know, and I'm proud of my stewardship.
What
of
happened
the county.
there, though, with these mistakes, these problems that you had that were of your own campaign's making?
You know, look, there were some issues that were government and some issues that were campaign. In any case, as I said, when I go around the city and talk to people, what they want to talk about is what's going on in their neighborhood and their communities.
So you don't think that that's something you need to tighten up?
You know, as I said, I'm going to try to get out and talk to people about my vision for the city. And I've always talked about the fact that we need a city in which everyone believes there's opportunity for them and for their children. We need to balance development. We need to focus on downtown because it's the economic engine, not just of our city and our county, but our state. And we also need to focus on our neighborhoods. There has to be a balance. And the neighborhoods, of course, where people live, should be a focus of the mayor.
Let's talk about Lori, though. You say, and your campaign says, she's a phony reformer. Your aide, John Henley, told me you're going to go after her on the OPS record and on her record as a corporate lawyer, a millionaire corporate lawyer who defended corporate clients. Let's talk about Lori Lightfoot. Why is she a phony reformer?
Let me tell you what I've done with my life.
Wait,
I've been a teacher.
I want to hear what you think of Lori.
I'm going to start with myself, thank you.
We've talked about you. Let's talk about her now.
For the last 8 years, I've been president of the county. I've been chief executive of the second largest county in the country. For almost 20 years before that, I was an alderman in the city of Chicago. I started my working life as a teacher. So I've spent my life in public service.
Okay.
And
as compared to Lori, let's talk about.
She's a corporate lawyer, and she's spent her time defending big corporations and Wall Street banks. There's a quite different career path for somebody who's chosen public service for their entire career and somebody who's chosen to be part of a big law firm that defends the elites in this country.
And she's defended the elites? Give me some examples.
Well, Wall Street banks and corporate clients. She's defended corporate clients against discrimination suits. I mean, I think there hasn't been a lot of attention to her record over the last 6 months, and there will be more attention in the runoff.
And what is the record?
She's a corporate lawyer, a wealthy corporate lawyer who's defended the elites in this country.
And at OPS, when she ran the Office of Professional Standards, which was at that time inside the police department, what does the record show there?
Well, I think that what we'll see is that there was very little effort to move forward a progressive agenda or to hold the police accountable, at least initially. I think that there's a change in the narrative on her part as to what actually happened as a result of her service, and we'll see that come out in the next few weeks.
The change in the narrative, she says that it was a difficult time, it was still within the body of the police department, which it shouldn't have been, and that she tried to operate within those constraints, and that she particularly tried to hold police accountable for lying by omission or commission or whatever. Is that not true?
She accepted appointments from both Mayor Daley and Mayor Emanuel. The only positions she's held in government are appointive positions, while I've stood before the electorate, 11 times and asked for their help and support. I was reelected 5 times as alderman of the 4th Ward and 3 times to my present position. I think those are quite different records.
Should she have declined when Rich Daley turned to her and Mary Dempsey and said, please clean up the Department of Procurement Services after the minority contracting scandal and the
What
Duffs?
you were talking about was initially the police department, but in any case,
well, but I'm saying, but should she have declined?
If you choose to be, an appointed person from the mayor or whoever, then you're part of their administration, and you have to wear that.
What is she wearing? What should she wear? I mean, she was sent into purchasing, for example, to clean up after the Duffs scandal. What does she wear by being
I'm
part
talking
of
more
it?
I'm talking more about the police issues and not about purchasing, because that's what you asked about.
Okay, but what about? I mean, should she have declined to join the Emanuel and Daley administrations?
Well, there were people who did.
Who were they?
I'm not at liberty to say that, but let me just
You're
say.
You're saying that if you're philosophically opposed to somebody, you don't join them? Is that it? Do you compromise yourself by joining?
I think there's a difference between trying to work with people who have different views than you do and accepting an appointment from them. I guess that's what I would say.
So she compromised her principles, or does she not have any?
Well, you should talk to her about that.
Well, did she compromise herself?
Well, I think what will come out in the next few weeks is her record of service, particularly when it relates to police issues, and I think it's not the narrative that she has put forward with the public.
And the narrative is a more recent one when she co-chaired the Task Force on Police Accountability, which came up with a very scathing report. It wasn't a whitewash at all, and in fact it laid the groundwork for the Justice Department to do the same, which gave us the consent decree that
The
took
question
effect.
is that the entirety of her record? And I don't think it is, and we will, I think, make clear the entirety of her record.
And the entirety of her record shows what? That this is a makeover for her, or what?
That it's an effort to recast some of the past.
the past of,
Her service as in the various positions that she held relating to the police, yes.
but she seems to be the flavor of the month now, you know? She's the change agent. That's how she has portrayed herself, that's how she has sold herself, and the record on election night shows she's pretty successful at doing that in 11 wards.
Well, let me just say, we're going to work hard across the city to make the case that I'm the best choice, both because of my vision and experience. And I hope that that resonates with the people of the city of Chicago. As I talk about the need to support working families through raising the minimum wage, to addressing the challenges that our neighborhoods face, to trying to improve the quality of education available to all of our children, and as I said, to addressing the public safety challenges.
Both of you need to get a lot more specific about what you will do about the spike in pension payments, which looms out there like a slap in the face that's going to hit the next mayor. $270 million immediately, $1 billion over 4 years. There's not going to be a casino. It's not even in Pritzker's talk right now. And the graduated income tax, forget that, excuse me, for several years, if it happens at all. So where will you look other than TIFs?
Well, first of all, you know, I've always said that we need a progressive income tax in the state of Illinois.
I said that, but let's take that off the table
Well, I
because
think
it's
it's
a while
important.